Hey there, bookworms. Welcome to Pouring Over Books, a podcast where we dive into the books we love and maybe a few we didn't. I'm your host, LaShawn, and every week I'll be deep diving into what I'm reading, recommendations, and talking about all the things that we love about books. So grab your favorite coffee or tea, find a cozy spot, and let's get ready to pour over some great books together. Moving in with my dad and taking over his company because there was no one else to do it. Leaving Blaho so that he wouldn't be punished for my infertility, so that his mother could have grandchildren. Decisions I felt forced, even coerced into for the greater good. For the first time, they revealed themselves to me for what they were, choices, my choices. Because even conceding to someone else's wishes, giving into the meeting someone else's needs, even sacrificing yourself is a choice. These choices then became threads that became strings, that became ropes wound tight around me and Dad and Vlaho and all of the other people I love, braiding into this particular reality we are living now. And who says this reality is better than any other reality could have been had I braided my ropes differently? That was from Slanting Towards the Sea by Ladiha Hilje. Hello, friends, and welcome back to the Pouring Over Books podcast. My name is LaShawn, and I am your host. And I am here to remind you that we still have a full month left in summer. Even though these children are going back to school, there's candy corn in the stores, and pumpkin spice stuff is trending on Pinterest. Now, I love fall. Don't get me wrong. When it officially arrives, it will become my entire personality. But am I wrong for wanting to hold on to the little bit of summer that is left? I just want to hold on to it just a little bit, As our summer reading comes to an end and my summer break looms, which I'll talk to you about later, I want to take the time to answer a question I got last week, which is, what book should I read before the summer ends? I wanted to go on and on about one book in particular, but I decided that it was better to give people options because who doesn't like options? For me, this was the summer of rediscovering or discovering good writing. I'm a nerd. I love a well-written sentence. I love alliteration. I love big words used right and well. I love a good turn of phrase that makes me feel everything. I love character development and run-on thoughts of said characters. I love it all. And this summer, I read books that made me reread sentences, that made me write them down, and made me think about them even after I put the book down. And this week, I want to talk about 5 of those books. These are 5 books that I've chosen that I think everyone should read before summer ends. You don't have to read all 5, but pick one. Pick one. All right, let's get into it. So I've divided them up into categories based on the genre that they're in. So for my women's fiction / romance fans, I'm going to recommend These Summer Storms by Sarah McLean. Alice Storm hasn't been welcome at her family's magnificent private island off Rhode Island coast in 5 years. Not since she was cast out and built her life beyond the Storm name. But when her father dies, Alice and her family are bound to stay on the island and play one last challenge designed by her father to get their inheritance worth billions. You heard that, billions. Now, I've read Sarah McLean's historical romance books, and so I was personally interested to read this contemporary novel / women's fiction book from her. Like I said, it read more like women's fiction than romance, and I love that. And I think this is a great intro into romance for someone who is not used to reading it, who wants something good and light, but still has some depth. From her older sister's secret love affair, her brother's obsession with being a CEO, her younger sister's woo-woo and her mother's coldness, and her father's second in command, who is too handsome and was supposed to be a one-night stand. Yes, yes, yes. It was both intriguing to see if everyone would last to get the funds and all the secrets that were uncovered as we got through the book. So I really recommend that one. I think I rated it like a 4.5 out of 5. It was one of my favorite books so far this summer. For my people who are interested in fantasy but want something not typical, basically no extreme fairy smut, we'll say, I'm going to recommend The Night and the Moth by Rachel Gilling. Sybil Delling, a diviner who receives prophetic prophetic visions from 6 mystical omens is nearing the end of her 9-year service at the cathedral. When fellow diviners begin disappearing, she reluctantly joins forces with Roderick, a defiant knight who doubts her powers. Together, they must confront dangers beyond the cloister and uncover the truth, because only the gods hold the answers, and only a heretic like Roderick may have the power to defeat one. I had no intention of reading this when it was first published because I knew the first book, it was the first book of a series of a duology. And you know me, if you've been listening at any length of time, you know that I have been burned by other authors with these series. And so I like to wait until it is completed, or at least the second book is on the horizon, like a publisher date. But I loved Rachel Gilling's Shepherd King duology. It was one of my favorites in 2023. So when I was offered the arc of this, I was torn, but I gave in. It started off really slow for me, basically because you're getting into a new magical system and world building, but it was a good slow. Just like her previous series, it's lush and slow, and the story just builds on itself and slowly, so slowly that I didn't realize how much I was enjoying it until it was over. I absolutely loved this book. The story itself, like I said, it built and built and built. And just when I said to myself, but what will the next book be about? That last chapter, I suspected but didn't know it, and I did not know it would go like that. But the romance in this book was the perfect companion to the overall story. So if you are looking for a romance first fantasy, a romantasy, this is not it. But I still think you should read it because it is worth it for the fantasy and just the story, and the writing is beautiful. Beautiful. I really, really enjoyed this one, and I cannot wait for the next one. If you are looking for a thriller, I'm going to, of course, if you know me, you know what I'm going to suggest. King of Ashes by S.A. Cosby. I will go on and on about this book for probably the rest of the year. The premise: Norman Carruthers returns to his Virginia hometown after his father's suspicious car accident. He finds his brother Dante in deep with dangerous criminals and his sister Nevaeh overwhelmed running the family's crematorium. Threats close in. Roman, once a financial prodigy, offers himself and his skills to protect his family. While Nevaeh digs into the mystery of their mother's long ago disappearance, Roman proves he's far more dangerous than the criminals expected. A gritty, fast paced story about loyalty, buried secrets, and how far one will go to protect the ones they love, because in the end, everything burns. I knew personally that this was a 5-star read at the 50% mark. It exceeded all of my expectations. This is not my usual book. Like I always like to say, it's gory, it's violent, it's riveting, but I could not put it down. Plus, again, the theme that seems to go through these books this summer is the writing was beautiful. Like I said before, the nerd in me loves to see all the big words I learned in SAT prep used in a sentence. But the way he made you feel with those words was a big, big part. The best part, I think, of the book. Because the way I wailed and screamed in the last 25% of this book really needs to be studied. It was a masterpiece, leading us to the conclusion that had me screaming and staring at the wall after reading the last chapter. If I could give this 10 stars, I would. And everyone who asked me for a book this summer, this has been my go-to. Just read it. It's perfect. For my literary friends, I have 2 books for you. Let's start with Broken Country by Claire Leslie Hall. Beth and her husband Frank live a quiet life built on a farm until a dog is shot, unraveling their entire lives and the secrets that keep it together. Because the dog's owner is Gabrielle Wolfe, Beth's teenage love who shattered her heart. Now, back in the village with his young son, Gabriel reawakens memories Beth has tried to forget. Caught between her past and present, Beth must face impossible choices. Broken Country blends the emotion of a love story with the suspense of a thriller, and I thought that was brilliant of it. I could not put it down. I never even suspected the first twist, and then the second one made so much sense. I audibly gasped when I read it. It was so well done. It just drew me in and kept me in a chokehold until the very last line. I personally had a different ending in mind when I started the book, but when I got to the end, I understood that this was how the book had to end. It was excellent. Now, the last book that I want to talk about is Slanting Towards the Sea by Ladija Hilje. A decade after divorcing Vlaho, the love of her life, Ivana returns to her Croatian hometown to care for her ailing father. Once full of hope, her dreams were crushed by hardship and a devastating secret. Vlaho is now happily remarried with children, and Ivana finds unexpected comfort in reconnecting with him and befriending his vibrant wife, Marina. But when a new romance sparks for Ivana, the delicate balance between the three is shaking, leading to an emotional reckoning that forces each to confront love, loyalty, and the weight of the past. This book, guys, this was one of the most beautiful books I've read this year. That quote that I read in the beginning was from this book, and I remember reading that and being like, oh my, oh my. There's another line in the book that I wrote down. Here it is. It says, where is the fine line between sacrifices that make sense and those that don't? And how do we tell them apart? This is the question that I thought of while reading because, my goodness, this basically sums up the entire premise of the book. Ivana was such a beautifully complex character driven by so many big emotions and, of course, love. And even though I questioned like almost every single choice she made in this book, I found myself aching for her, even when she made hard decisions and how those decisions set into motion a series of events that when you look back on, you see she could have prevented. But choices, again, it's all about how our choices affect. It's so many ties and so many lines, like she said. But the results of her decisions also resulted in beauty and love. And even she says, how can she dispute that? It was so heart wrenching and beautiful and stunning. And I feel like Croatia, the country, was also like another character in the book. I really want to visit there now. This is one of those books that it will take me a long time to forget. And it is going on my bookshelf as a trophy book as soon as I can manage it because it's just so good. I'm going to have to read it again. Okay, friends. So those are the 5 books that I wanted to put on your radar for the rest of the summer. I am going to be taking a short break this month to get ready for season 3 of Pouring Over Books. Next week, there will be one rerun episode and then one dark week until we reach September. So, that being said, let's talk about what I am currently reading or what I just got finished reading. I just finished Big Fan by Alexandria Romanoff. I think I started this book sometime in July, maybe, but put it down. I got distracted by other books, you might want to say. I picked it back up yesterday, and it's a short book. So I finished it quickly once I really got into it. As a political strategist tainted by a scandalous ex, finds an unexpected career detour when her teenage band boy crush offers a second chance at the spotlight and maybe something more. This was a quick short read. It's a romance. It was almost like a bite-sized story. Like it really wasn't drawn out. It got to the point. There was conversation, tension, sexy times, and then a conclusion. I mean, the book was only 162 pages. It didn't wrap everything up in a bow like most romances do these days. Like it gave you a satisfying conclusion, but it left it open for more. And I was perfectly fine with that. There is an epilogue that you have to scan a QR code at the end of the ebook to read, the end of the book to read, but I decided to end it there and just imagine them finding their long-term happily ever after. So I gave that one a 4 out of 5. It was cute. It was cute, and it mainly got the 4. Did I give it 3.5 or 4? I don't know, but I'll say 4 for now, mainly because it was short, quick, and to the point. I appreciated that way more than anybody knows. I am currently reading The Wedding by Dorothy West for the Pouring Over Books book club. In Dorothy West, The Wedding, set in an exclusive African-American enclave of Martha's Vineyard in the 1950s, wealthy and beautiful Shelby Coles prepares to marry a white jazz musician, causing tension in her proud upper class Black family. As relatives and friends gather, long buried resentments, colorism, class divides, and generational conflicts surface. Through shifting perspectives and rich backstories, West explores how history, identity, and societal expectations shape love and ambition. Over the course of the wedding weekend, revelations and confrontations challenge traditions, forcing the Coles family to reckon with their values, their prejudices, and what it truly means to belong. We are on week 1 of our discussion, so if you still want to join us this month, you definitely can. We just read chapters 1 through 4, and we are working on chapters 5 through 9 this week. I will leave a link in the show notes to join us. Join us. We have a good time in our meetings. Come join us. Next on my TBR is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas, because I am part of a reread along of the entire Throne of Glass series. I was slightly behind reading the first book in the series, The Assassin's Blades, which is a prequel of sorts. But now it's time to dive into the actual series. Despite the popularity of ACOTAR, A Court of Thorn and Roses, and all those books, Throne of Glass will always remain my favorite series of Sarah J. Maas so far. It leans more fantasy than romantasy. It has less sexy times than her other books, and in my opinion, overall is better written. I think it's because it started off as YA fantasy, and in my humble opinion, YA fantasy has more depth and more storytelling, and it's usually a better fantasy experience because they don't have any sex to focus on as much. It's more tension, it's more yearning, it's more closed door. And so they really have to focus on the story and not use sex as a plot point, you might want to say. And there's more character development. Character development is always top tier. And that is what I really love about this series, because the journey of Selena to Aelin is a big one. I always highly recommend this series, even though a lot of people are bored until book 3. They just don't get it until book 3. And that's perfectly fine. But that is what I am currently committed to reading, along with The Wedding for the book club. And I am finishing up this billionaire romance series of my friend Emily, who was on the pod. She sent me a text message about when she was reading one of the books, and I got sucked in. It is not my usual romance. There is more character development. It's more romance and yearning, and like I said, character development. And there's a story. The sexy time, sometimes the first kiss doesn't happen until like 75% into the book. It is the slow burners of slow burn, but I am really enjoying those books. Also, I am on the last one, and I'm trying to take my time. I had to take a step back because, after you read something for a lot of something for a while, you make yourself take a step back. But anyway, that's it. Like I said before, this is my last live episode of the month. I am so excited to take a little break and rev up for the fall reading season. A few housekeeping notes before we go. Remember that you can now watch this episode on YouTube. The link is in the show notes. And don't forget to follow the podcast on the podcast's IG page at Pouring Over Books Pod on IG. If you love this episode, do me a favor and make sure to follow the podcast on the podcast platform of your choice so that you don't miss the next episode. It's free. It helps the show. It helps us find more bookish friends, and it keeps your TBR interesting. As always, you can follow me personally on IG and TikTok at LaShawn Wiltz, and my Substack, Letters to LaShawn. Okay, friends, thank you for listening. Remember, there is a pre-recorded episode next week, but I will talk to you personally in September with all the reading I get done for the next few weeks while I'm on break. Okay, talk soon. Bye-bye.